Hello everyone, welcome to another video. My name's Kevin, I'm a polyglot, a teacher, a linguist, and also a very handsome man. Wait, was that on the script? In this video, we are going to react to popular polyglot YouTubers and we'll decide together whether they are fluent in French or not. Obviously, it can be a bit difficult to tell based off a video whether someone is fluent or not because I know people edit their videos, there's cuts and stuff like that, but we'll look at some clear signs that can help us figure out if someone is or isn't truly fluent. Let's get into it. The first polyglot I want to react to is Luca Lampariello. It's interesting because I've reacted to one of his videos before, I will put a link in the description box below, and I've already spoken to him, not in person, but virtually through voice messages, so I already know his level of French. But let's watch anyway.
Ah, le français, mon vieux pote. Je te connais très bien. J'ai vécu en France, j'ai fait une école d'interprétation à Paname et j'ai même eu une relation assez longue, 5 ans, avec une Française. Avec pas mal de moments passés avec sa famille, à regarder les tontons flingueurs et à papoter de littérature, de politique et bien sûr de bouffe française.
Well, something that I knew already is how natural the cadence, I think, of his French is. Like, it sounds really natural. It sounds honestly pretty close to the French that a native speaker would speak. And my hair is a bit of a mess, sorry for that. Like, the rhythm is really, I don't know, smooth. It just flows. Like, the prosody is also very good. Honestly, so far so good. I kind of feel like he was trying to add sort of colloquial words, sort of on purpose, if that makes sense. Like, I'm thinking of slang words in particular. For example, Paname, papoter, bouffe, all these words. And I don't think a native speaker would use them like that. I mean, he used them correctly, that's not a problem. I probably wouldn't say la bouffe française, I don't think. I would say la bouffe, but for some reason, la bouffe française, I don't know. Maybe it's us being very pretentious and saying like, oh, it's not bouffe, it's nourriture, it's proper food, you know, because it's French. I don't know. I'm just nitpicking. Honestly, I'm nitpicking. His French is amazing.
Mais cette année, j'ai fait une sacrée pause avec mon amour, le français. À la place, je l'ai surtout laissé me tenir compagnie pendant que je cuisinais. Oui, France 24 en France sonore pendant que Chef Lucas émince ses oignons. D'ailleurs, qui d'autre ici fait son meilleur apprentissage des langues dans la cuisine? Balancez vos anecdotes dans les commentaires. Cela dit,
yeah, to me it sounds like he's purposefully using like some words when there's simpler options. For example, he says émincer ses oignons. Yes, a cook would definitely use those words, but I feel like an everyday person would just say couper. I don't know, maybe my French is so basic that I wouldn't use those words. So maybe it's a me problem, really. It's kind of like he's trying to show off a bit, not in a pretentious way, but he's trying to sort of impress us. And to be fair, he doesn't need to do that to impress us.
j'ai quand même vu un film sympa cette année. Coup de chance, signé Woody Allen, rien que ça. Mais à part ça, mon expérience avec le français en 2024 a été plutôt tranquille. Cela dit, quand on connaît bien une langue, c'est comme le vélo, ça ne s'oublie pas. Même en ne l'utilisant pas trop, ça revient très vite. Un peu comme faire du vélo, mais avec des conjugaisons en prime. Bref, faire une pause avec une langue qu'on maîtrise bien, c'est pas la fin du monde. Elle reste là, gentiment, à t'attendre.
Well, to be fair, there was no mistakes that I could pick up on. To me, I would say that Luca is probably C2. I'm pretty confident he would qualify as a C2 speaker of French. Obviously, I don't know his writing and that kind of stuff, but judging by his speaking, I think C2 wouldn't be an exaggeration. Alright, so the next polyglot we are going to react to is Iklal. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I've done some research. I went on Google, and I know she is a native speaker of Turkish. Hopefully this information is correct, but apparently she speaks really good French. I haven't had the chance to interact with her before, unlike with Luca, so let's see. I recognize that city.
Un très grand bonjour ou bonsoir à tous de Paris. Je suis enfin de retour, vraiment, je suis tellement heureuse, je peux même pas décrire ce que je ressens maintenant. En fait, je sais pas si vous êtes au courant, mais j'ai déjà visité Paris lorsque
Already something I notice is how natural she sounds in terms of using, how do you call them? Contractions. Here we go. So she says things like je suis, je peux pas, things like that, which sounds really natural. So far, she sounds really fluent, but let's keep on listening.
Maintenant, en fait, je sais pas si vous êtes au courant, mais j'ai déjà visité Paris lorsque j'avais 18 ans. Lors de notre interrail avec mes copines du lycée, en fait, Paris était la dernière étape de notre itinéraire. On était toutes crevées, donc j'ai pas pu vraiment vlogger mon expérience à Paris, même si je n'avais hâte. Mais
Okay, so there's not much I've noticed when she said même si j'en avais hâte. I don't think we would say that in French. Même si j'avais hâte de le faire, même si j'avais vraiment envie de le faire, I guess. But we wouldn't say that, I don't think. But honestly, except from maybe she mispronounced dernière ou dernier, I can't remember what gender that was. Sounds amazing. Let's keep on listening.
Et cette fois-ci, je suis de retour toute seule, comme d'habitude, on peut dire. C'est juste qu'avant de retourner à Istanbul pour les vacances, j'avais un peu de temps libre, donc je voulais en profiter. Et j'ai récemment obtenu mon DAF C2, donc c'est un peu un voyage des rêves, voilà. En fait, ce matin, je me suis déjà baladée un peu dans Paris. Je connais Paris un peu, mais pas dans le détail, pas comme ma poche, bien évidemment. C'est pour cette raison que je veux un peu découvrir qu'est-ce que la ville peut m'offrir cette fois-ci. Et aussi, on est en décembre, juste avant le Noël, donc je veux également visiter les marchés de Noël à Paris.
Very interesting. So in French, normally, if we are talking about standard French, we should say things like découvrir ce que la ville a à m'offrir. Is that what she said exactly? Let me go back.
C'est pour cette raison que je veux un peu découvrir qu'est-ce que la ville peut m'offrir cette fois-ci.
So, c'est pour ça que je veux découvrir ce que la ville a à m'offrir. So normally in standard French, we would say that. But her mistake is not really a mistake in the sense that even native speakers will say that. Probably I could say that if I'm not really, paying attention to how I'm speaking. So that's interesting. She probably picked that up from native speakers, I would say. Because, yeah, I mean, that's pretty surprising. She said that she has a C2, she got a C2 certification, and I do believe that. To me, Iqlal is most likely, definitely, not me trying to go against her results, but yeah, she's definitely a C2 French speaker.
Décembre, juste avant le Noël, donc je veux également visiter les marchés de Noël à Paris. Dans toute ma vie, j'ai seulement vu 2 marchés de Noël. La première fois en Milan, car j'habite à Milan, et la deuxième fois c'était à Vienne. Paris, pour moi, à mon avis, ça serait tellement intéressant, je sais pas. Bon, bref, maintenant en direction Louvre, car vous ne croyez pas, mais lors de ma première visite, j'ai pas visité le Louvre. J'ai jamais mis les pieds au Louvre. C'est là.
No, honestly, she uses really good French, like very natural expressions. Direction Paris or direction, I don't know the place she used, I can't remember. But this is very natural French. So honestly, Iqlal, your C2 result is well deserved. All right, so the next polyglot I'm going to react to is Steve Kaufman. I do believe he's technically Swedish, but he moved to Canada when he was like really young. So basically, I think he's Canadian. Interestingly enough, so Steve Kaufman and I, we had some beef. He probably doesn't even remember who I am, but he blocked me on Twitter. I'm not going to go into the details, but we had some, we had a thing, essentially, which is fine. I'm going to put that aside and actually focus on how he speaks French.
Bonjour, ici Steve Kaufman. Aujourd'hui, je veux vous parler de la langue française. Au sujet de la langue française. Est-ce que le français est difficile? Si vous aimez mes vidéos, veuillez cliquer sur la cloche pour avoir des notifications. Et puis si vous me suivez sur un service de podcast, veuillez laisser un commentaire, s'il vous plaît. Bon, de mon avis, le français, pour quelqu'un qui parle déjà l'anglais, n'est pas très difficile.
So first mistake, I'm really nitpicking, honestly, because so far he sounds really good. We wouldn't say de mon avis. We would say à mon avis, pour moi, personnellement, je pense que, anything like that, but not de mon avis. No.
Difficile. Parce que dans l'apprentissage de n'importe quelle langue, la chose la plus importante pour moi, c'est le vocabulaire. Alors, le vocabulaire en français est assez semblable au vocabulaire en anglais. 60% à peu près des mots sont d'origine française, ou du moins reconnaissables comme étant semblables aux mots du vocabulaire anglais. Bon, par exemple, les mots que je vais utiliser dans cette vidéo, la plupart, vous pouvez reconnaître que ce sont des mots qui sont semblables à des mots en anglais. Si vous allez étudier...
À des mots en anglais? À des mots anglais? I think would sound a bit more natural in French. Again, just nitpicking.
Étudier cette vidéo comme leçon à link, ce que vous pouvez faire, parce que cette vidéo sera dans la bibliothèque de la langue française à link. Vous pouvez voir, vous pouvez sauvegarder des mots qui sont, vous allez le voir, très semblables à l'anglais. Donc, les mots sont très semblables. Grand avantage. Et même, des fois, il faut savoir que quand il y a un accent aigu, c'est-à-dire comme ça, ou un accent circonflexe en français, ça cache un X. Donc, étudier, study. École, school.
All right, I think I've got enough to go off of. Honestly, I probably would say Steve is C2 in French. Again, as I said at the beginning of the video, it's only an extract. I would have to, listen to a lot more and on different topics, of course. But he sounds pretty fluent. Nothing he said was hard to understand or unclear. The pronunciation is pretty much accurate. Obviously, there's a slight American or Canadian, I guess in that case, twang, if I'm really listening to it, but it's by no means strong. So honestly, Steve is pretty impressive when it comes to French. All right, so the next one is Zoe Languages. And to be honest, of all the polyglots I'm reacting to in this video, she's the one I know the least. So I don't know much about her, really. All I know, I did a bit of research, is that she is a native speaker of Chinese. So let's go, let's listen.
Salut mes chers amis, voilà la vidéo pour les ressources et conseils pour apprendre le français niveau B2 à C2. Évidemment, je ne parlerai qu'en français dans cette vidéo. À partir du niveau B1, vous devez absorber autant de contenu que possible en français à une vitesse normale. Fini le slow French, mes chers camarades. Même si vous n'apprenez pas le français, vous avez un niveau intermédiaire d'une langue étrangère et vous vous sentez un peu bloqué et vous avez du mal à progresser malgré les efforts.
First thing I noticed, une langue étrangère, she didn't pronounce the R, or maybe she used the wrong gender for the adjective. That's all I really heard so far that was, striking, I guess.
J'espère que vous pouvez également trouver quelques idées ou stratégies pour briser le plafond. Pour les amis qui galèrent en français, si vous n'avez pas regardé la vidéo niveau
Good use of the word galérer, to struggle.
A1, B1 et vous avez l'impression qu'il vous manque encore les bases et vous voulez renforcer votre grammaire et votre prononciation.
I didn't catch that. All right, upon reading the subtitles, encore les bases. Okay, I guess for this one I had to read the subtitles, but it does make sense now that I read it. But that's the first thing I kind of didn't understand the first time around.
Vous voulez renforcer votre grammaire et votre prononciation, vous pouvez toujours regarder cette vidéo. Je vais partager des ressources, des méthodes et des programmes d'études pour vous aider à améliorer votre français de manière.
The only thing I noticed, and it's interesting, I mean, obviously I don't speak Chinese, so it might, because usually the way we pronounce a language is obviously related to our native language, and I don't know much about Chinese. But it's interesting because sometimes she struggles or she doesn't pronounce the R. I think she said regarder instead of regarder. But other times she does pronounce the R, so I'm not sure why it's not consistent. There might be a very good reason for that.
Concrète. Pour ceux qui ne me connaissent pas, je suis Zoé, une polyglotte qui parle 7 langues. J'ai fait un master en sociologie en France et en ce moment, je pousse une thèse en co-tutelle entre la France et l'Allemagne. Le français, l'allemand, l'anglais et l'arabe sont mes langues de travail, mais pas ma langue maternelle, le chinois. Si vous aimez bien cette vidéo, n'oubliez pas de me donner un like et vous abonner à ma chaîne. C'est le meilleur moyen de me soutenir. Vous êtes prêts?
All right, I think I've got enough. Obviously, she's definitely fluent in French. That's not a lie, for sure. Yes, I guess there was one time when I couldn't understand, but honestly, even in English, I misspeak sometimes, so, who cares? Doesn't matter. She does have a little accent. I don't think I would have been able to spot the Chinese accent straight away. I guess what I'm trying to say is that she's come a long way and she has erased most of her Chinese accent when speaking French. So that's already amazing. If I were to give her a level, well, she's definitely in the C range, probably C2, especially if she's doing a master's in sociology. Masters usually require C2. So yeah, she could be a C2, to be honest. So yeah, I'm very surprised by the polyglots. I thought there would be more of a mixed bag. The next polyglot is Kazu Languages, and he's Japanese. I like the variety we have in this video. He made a video which was recorded 4 years ago, so quite a while ago. It's likely that his level has changed for the better, potentially. But we'll watch it.
Bonjour tout le monde, je suis polyglotte nomade. Aujourd'hui, je voulais vous parler de mon impression de Paris d'un fan de vieux japonais. Alors, c'est parti. Je suis allé à Paris, en France, il y a 2 ans, en tant que touriste. Et je vais vous dire 3 choses que j'ai senties à ce moment-là. Ma première impression est la suivante.
We probably would say que j'ai ressenti. Sentir can mean to smell or feel in some cases, but ressentir is more the idea of like experiencing an emotion. So that's the first thing I kind of noticed.
Tout ressemble à une scène de film. Là, dans le musée, la ville, tout est merveilleux. Je suis allé au Louvre et j'ai vu des peintures célèbres que l'on trouve dans les manuels scolaires. Ils étaient extraordinaires.
Maybe he's looking at a script, I'm not sure. It does feel like the sentences don't roll off his tongue, like they don't come out super naturally and in a fluid way, like a smooth, fluent way, I guess. So I'm not sure. His pronunciation is not bad at all, especially considering his Japanese, and I'm learning Japanese, so I know a bit more about the phonology of Japanese. So his French is not bad at all. It does sound quite Japanese still, especially when he said triste instead of touriste. So the way he said it could have been interpreted as triste, sad, as opposed to tourist, if you enunciate properly, touriste. But let's listen to a little bit more of what he has to say about France and Paris.
Quand je marchais sur les Champs-Élysées au coucher du soleil, c'était comme dans les films. Il y avait aussi un spectacle dans la rue sur Montmartre et nous avons tous chanté ensemble. Ce sont les meilleurs souvenirs. Ma deuxième impression est la suivante. Dans l'ensemble, les escroqueries sont nombreuses, surtout près de la tour.
Yeah, my gut feeling is that his French overall, I mean, from what I can hear, is pretty good. I mean, maybe a couple of mistakes and mispronunciations, but nothing, absolutely terrible. But it does feel like it was a bit rehearsed, or maybe scripted, or maybe he's learning a sentence one by one, which could be because he's making a YouTube video. Like, I might be fluent in English, but I still write a script sometimes, not always, but sometimes, and I will learn a sentence off by heart and say it to the camera. That's me being very honest with you guys. Doesn't mean I'm not fluent, it's just that I want the way I say things to be smooth and make sense and just be as clear as possible and be eloquent as well, that kind of thing. That's something to take into account. It might be they wanted to be as good as possible and, be eloquent, essentially. But regardless, it does sound to me that maybe he has looked up some expressions or his French was corrected one way or another. So I'm not sure. If I was to give a level, I probably would place him around the B1 level. I wouldn't say under that, nor would I say above that. But honestly, still very impressive. So, omedetou, Kazu-san. And the next one, and this one is an interesting one because I know him in person. We've met, we've done a video together. So I've got a pretty good idea of what his French is like, but let's still watch him together.
I don't speak French. I never have. I memorized a few sentences because I wanted to be a polyglot YouTuber. Just to show you guys how sorry I am. Je vais porter ce bandeau pour les yeux pour vous montrer que je ne lis pas de script. Il n'y a pas de script, tu vois.
Not the COVID mask.
Je peux même pas voir. Et je vais pas éditer cette vidéo pour que vous sachiez que je parle normalement, tu vois. Et alors, je sais pas de quoi je veux parler aujourd'hui, mais je veux juste vous montrer que je parle français, tu vois. Parce qu'il y a toujours des gens dans mes commentaires qui disent « Ah Language Simp, c'est de la fraude, c'est de la corruption.
La fraude.
Il ment tout le temps, il est comme les autres polyglottes entre guillemets sur YouTube. » Mais vraiment les gars, je vous jure, sur la vie de ton père, que je parle bien le français. Mais ça dépend de...
All right, so again, I know it's French already, but it does sound quite natural in French. I will say that. The phrases he uses, obviously he uses a few of them for comedy value, but apart from that, saying things like entre guillemets will sound quite natural in French. So I can tell he's been exposed to French, maybe he's watched a lot of content. I don't actually know that about him for sure. So Language Simp, let us know in the comment section if you watch this video. But I can tell he's practiced French a lot and he can speak it, obviously.
De ton point de vue, en fait. Tu peux me dire dans les commentaires, je sais pas pourquoi au début je vous ai vous voyez et maintenant je te tutoie. C'est un peu bizarre pour moi de parler de cette façon, mais ça va, je vous jure que dans mon Discord, je parle français presque tous les jours. Bah, j'ai commencé à le faire il y a quelques jours et les gens de là peuvent vous dire que je parle bien. Même si je fais des petites fautes des fois, je m'en bats. Mais alors, je dis
I'll have to mute some of those things he says.
chocolatine au lieu de pain au chocolat. Je pense que ça, c'est très important de vous dire dans la première vidéo sur la chaîne. Et quoi d'autre? Alors, je préfère Lille comme ville préférée en France. J'y suis allé 2 fois et c'est super stylé. J'aime la gare Lille-Flandre.
All right, I've got enough. So, obviously, Language Simp is fluent in French. I will let you in on a secret, which is that when Language Simp and I'm careful not to say his name. So, when Language Simp and I did the video together, obviously the video is very edited, there's lots of cuts and stuff, but that's not to compensate for him not speaking French properly. It's more because me, I was so nervous that I was like laughing, we were cracking up in between, jokes and lines, that we had to cut it so it becomes something that's watchable. But honestly, we haven't rehearsed anything in the video. It's all been spontaneous. He was just talking to me, I was responding, improvising. It was all improvised, 100%. There's maybe one sentence that I asked him to do again because I wanted to change my reaction. That's another secret. But honestly, it was all spontaneous French. He understood everything I said. And I was impressed because when I met him and we made the video together, I wasn't sure how good his French was, but he's fluent. Now, if I was to give him a level, it's kind of tough. Obviously, he's going to say he's D1 in French. Because that's Language Simp. No, honestly, probably a high B2. I'm not giving him C1 because I didn't really hear C1 elements. That's not to say he's not C1. Careful not to say what I didn't say. But I don't know, I haven't seen C1 French kind of content. So I would say B2, but if he was C1, it wouldn't be surprising. Now C2, I don't know. Language Simp and we were laughing the other day because I was telling him about the new podcast I started, and I'm doing a bit of promo here, which is a podcast fully in French, which leans towards personal development, sharing experiences, that kind of stuff. And I said to him that whenever he comes to Paris, I will invite him on my podcast. And if he does, now we will see for sure his level, because in that podcast, there will definitely be higher level French. So that would be interesting to sort of look at. All right, so that's it for this video. I'm going to stop here because my camera is starting to overheat because I'm recording in 4K and it doesn't like that. So before it cuts us off, I will say thank you for watching the video and well done to all the polyglots that I have included in this video, because all of them had very, very good French. So I was very impressed. And on this note, don't forget to like the video, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in a future video. Bye-bye. And by the way, if you would like me to do a dedicated video of any of these YouTubers I've covered in this video, let me know if that's something you would be interested in. That could be interesting to sort of go deeper and look more at how they speak French, maybe give corrections, feedback, something a bit more in depth, let's say. Yeah, just let me know.